third is Suarez. Goodell comes running in. He's under it, makes the catch. Here's the throw to the plate. It's in the air. He is out! Cameron Rick hangs on! Oh, man, what a play! Deep to right field. Way up there and way out! Second
Welcome back in. I am joined by someone who was worried about Trey Turner's February at-bats. So, thankfully...
Not the pitch selection's a problem, but we'll talk about it. That's
a
crazy way to introduce. But I'll live with it.
I mean, yeah.
I can say the same thing about you and Bryson Stott. So.
Oh, I know. But that's a bit at this point. We'll see. Actually, he has to win me over this year. He almost had me, and then last year was really bad, so he didn't win me over. But he has another chance this year. But we'll get into all that. Spring training kind of at the midway point, a little less, I guess. There's 2 weeks till the opening day, so probably 10 days from now we'll do a season preview once we know the injury status of everyone. Hopefully good. So I was kind of going to leave with that. So the only problem so far has kind of been Strom, who has this impingement in his shoulder or whatever. And he said it doesn't hurt when he throws, but after the fact it's sore, so it's affecting his rest. So he can't do back-to-back days right now, which, when he's one of your heavy usage relievers, so him not being able to do back-to-back days would be an issue. So it's better to just shut him down. But what this does do is pretty much leaves Alvarado, who's been really good this spring, actually, as the only trusty lefty in the pen, which we're talking about how they look a guy short in that pen, but now it looks to be two. And the dudes on these minor league invites are just not like two of them are going to make the team out for opening day, which is kind of a problem the way it is, but they're not going to do anything significant, you don't think? So I just want to start with the bullpen because Romano, Kerkering, and Alvarado have all looked really good this spring. But then it's like, you have to fill 5 other spots in there. And I know Joe Ross is one of them. He's been hit or miss a little bit. I know they're stretching him out, so it's maybe not as good as it would look if he was just a one-inning bullpen guy. But I want to start with the bullpen because we know the rotation's pretty stacked. We know what the offense is, but this is kind of the one unknown coming into the season was this unit, and now it's even, a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back to our kind of off-season recap pods and stuff a few months back, that was kind of the main thing we harped on. We thought the bullpen was going to be the weak point of this team. So far, I haven't really kept up with the Hoffman stats and what his spring looks like, but obviously when he signed, there were the injury concerns, and like you said, Romano's been pretty good so far. So, I think, it's gotten to the point where I think we could kind of trust in the moves that Dave Dombrowski makes, but I think the biggest problem that you and I had with the bullpen was to say the move that he didn't make. Like you said, we were a guy short, and now that the one injury happens to be Strom, you were already short on lefties when your division now has Juan Soto on top of having Matt Olson, on top of if you want to win the pennant, you got to go through Freddie Freeman and Ohtani. It's like you're a little low on lefties to begin with. And now Alvarado is inconsistent as all hell. Obviously, there's a good article written the other day about him kind of having something to prove with bringing back his fastball, his curveball is not just show me pitches, but actual, additions to his arsenal. So, sure, this last month shows that he's going to improve. But last year, Strom was your guy, especially from the left side. He was an all-star. The first 2 months of the season, he was money for you as monies could get. So now you're already low on lefties, and then you lose that guy who's been a dog for you the last 2 years. It's problematic to me. I think that last year we kind of were able to rely on the bullpen in certain stretches, and I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it might cost them some games early until they figure things out. And it it might cause them to have to make a move before the trade deadline because they were, bringing in some of these guys, and you didn't expect them to be like major contributors, but to fill spots. And I know like some of them that we were intrigued by, like the Koyo Iagis of the world. He's terrible.
He was bad. Today was bad. I
His
was kind of looking.
A week or two ago, he was even worse.
Yeah, that was bad. It was a hit by pitch, 4 walks, and a wild pitch, I think.
Yeah, Joe Ross, his first outing was a little rocky, and by rocky I mean like 1 or 2 runs in an inning. But since then, he's been better. Taiwan doesn't look terrible, relatively speaking. I'm
right. We'll get.
I'm flirting with the idea of becoming a Thai guy. I'm not sure yet. I might zig while everyone else zags, but I'm not completely there yet. But yeah, all jokes aside, I think the bullpen in the first 2 months is going to dictate a lot of where this team goes. We know what the offense is going to bring. They're going to be frustrating as all hell at times. But like, there's a lot of money there. There's a lot of talent there. And like, I trust them for the most part. And, Luzardo and Wheeler have had like one bad start each, but that rotation is going to be money. Like, unless something drastically goes wrong, that rotation is going to be a top 3 rotation in baseball. Like, close it, turn the page, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. So I think the bullpen's going to make or break them, and I'm curious to see what happens because right now I'm not too optimistic about it.
Yeah, so the Taiwan thing's interesting because he has looked decent, and his fastball's like at 93.5, which it never was at any point last year, according to Todd Zalecki. But like, he's not better than anyone in the rotation, and those aren't exactly, that stuff doesn't really play in the bullpen as much.
No.
But at the same time, because Painter isn't going to be there until like July, you still need some kind of backup plan. So making him the long man like makes the most sense right now, unless like teams like the Yankees and the Mets have dealt with a lot of rotation injuries. You just kind of wonder if you're not going to get out of that contract, but can you go crappy contract for crappy contract and get like a bullpen guy back from a team that needs a starter more than a bullpen piece? Like, if you can work something like that out, then I would think about that. I know they also mentioned that Andrew Painter like will not come out of the pen when he does get those 100 innings or whatever it is when he comes up to the majors. So I'm thinking it's going to be Ranger or Luzardo, although they didn't rule out a 6-man rotation. But not to get ahead of yourself, but like, if they do get screwed into the wild card series, going Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola, and having Painter, Luzardo, and Sanchez in the bullpen, but then like, see, that's the thing. Like, I think their thought process becomes that then where we don't have to do anything at the deadline to get a lefty, because for, at least one of Luzardo or Suarez are probably going in our October bullpen, which is great. But, you got to get there first. And it kind of sucks that you probably won't have Strom now. I know it doesn't matter really, but that Dodgers series is the 3rd series of the season. So you're not going to have that lefty to go against Freeman and Ohtani, which kind of sucks. But, obviously that 3rd series isn't going to make or break the season. But it does suck to not have him for that, because you'd like to win those games if it comes down to maybe, although we think Dodgers can win like 110 games, if you, get within a game or 2 of them, you don't have that tiebreaker anymore. That's a little unfortunate. So that's something to keep in mind. But the thing that annoys me is I'd rather would have spent the money and not had to, for the 3rd, 4th straight year, have to trade the prospect for some rental closer. I mean, we did it with Robertson for Ben Brown. If you want to count Lorenzen as, that pitching piece that he was more of a starter, but, Howie Lee is kind of rising up the Tigers. And then last year they had to give up 2 guys that they liked, in Allegary and Clausen, for Estevez. And now we're kind of on year 4 of having to do this, which kind of sucks because, you're probably parting with, if you look at it now, like someone like Gene Cabrera, Arun Escobar, like someone of that status, again, for a rental bullpen piece, which just kind of sucks. I know with where they're on the tax thing, like the salaries are double, but I'd rather just spend the money than have to give up another guy that if you had still had some of those guys, you might be able to get a bigger piece than those guys, down the line.
Yeah, for sure. I think like it's so tough too because when you look at the trade deadline, obviously the relievers are the trickiest puzzle pieces to kind of flip around because like the Tanner Scotts of the world are so expensive because obviously the new model of the playoffs since the Royals in 2015 is let the starters go 4 or 5 innings and then get to the bullpen as soon as possible and just shrink the game. So like relievers have just become so expensive at such a premium if you're getting a guy, but then like the guys who aren't going for anything just stink. So there's no real in between ground.
Tanner Banks cost a top 10 prospect.
Yeah, and starters are kind of the same way. Luckily, I don't like you were saying. I don't think they'll make anything at a starter this year unless there's some sort of injury. Like right now, I think you try and float Walker out there as he looks good in the spring and say, hey, we'll eat the contract. Either give us like a half decent prospect that we can move at the deadline or give us a reliever that like fills needs now. I don't know. The contracts the last few years have just like handcuffed them in terms of what the Castellanos money and Walker money is doing. Now, like I'm not saying like realistically $20 million for what Castellanos has given them hasn't been like terrible. It's not what we expect, but like when you look across the league at certain contracts, and then when you even look at like that might be an overpay, but then you're getting Harper for like $26 million a year. It's like really on the margins, it's not that much of a difference. So like it's tough to look at that and say, hey, this is what's doing. I think the biggest thing is the farm system is at an in-between where you have like the elites, like the Painter prospects, and then like I think Aiden Miller is approaching there. I know some people view Justin Crawford there. I like Crawford a lot, but
he's all over the place. Like some don't even have him ranked in the top 100, and others have him at like 30.
Yeah, if you like look down our system, like Dante Nori, who is the first round pick last year, is like our 8th or 9th ranked prospect, I believe, in the new pipeline rankings. In a good farm system, he might be top 15. Like I don't think he has any tools that jump off of it. So like then to get that top reliever or a good starter at the deadline, you're having to package 2 of those guys and you're taking a step forward. But then the next year we're kind of sitting here in February and it's like, wow, they really have to give up a lot to go get somebody good.
And I was thinking about this. We're beyond the point of Painter or Miller getting traded. I think we're very beyond that point. Because even some of the guys that'll be available at the deadline, maybe like someone like Vladdy who might be available, like you're not giving up those guys for half a year of him. Or if the Cubs experiment doesn't work and they decide to deal Tucker, like you're not giving up either of them for half a year of him. So like the big names that could be available, like you're not at the point of that. But does it get to the point where you kind of rip the Band-Aid off and put together a type of package you can to get like Miller from the A's or something? Like, just screw it. Like we need to get this long-term closer already.
If we're talking about long-term closers, just looking across baseball, and again, we're not doing a trade deadline preview by any means, but if you're just looking at the landscape and seeing things, the Guardians are really good every year. The Royals made it to the divisional series last year and went deep against the Yankees. The Tigers are freaking good with that rotation. The Twins are kind of in an in-between. Johan Duran is really freaking good. That is probably, I mean, if I had to guess, fast forward to July, would not be shocked at all if he is the premier name, like how Clase has kind of been floated out there the last few years and nothing's really been done. Like, he might be the guy that is, like, do you package a Justin Crawford and like a Spikerman or something for a Johan Duran to finally get that closer? I don't know, but that's probably the name that's going to be out there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and that's where I'm kind of like, if we're gonna do this in July again, where we're gonna play the closer game where we trade for the guy, let's just get the long-term guy, and maybe we give up 3 really good prospects instead of for 4 straight years we give up 2 good prospects. I think that's kind of the way to go about it at this point. But again, we'll kind of see what July looks like. Really quick, just on the lineup. So they started the spring with Schwarber leading off, and now it's kind of gone to Turner. Today was the first time you saw the majority of the starting lineup. Castellanos was the only one that didn't play, and they went Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber, Real Muto, Kepler, and then it was some combination of Stott, Marsh, and Mercado. I don't have that off the top of my head. I think that was the way it was. Yeah, they put up 16 runs. Turner started the game with a home run, so the whole Schwarber has to start the game, lead off the home run. Well, Turner did it today. Harper in the 2 spot. Obviously, he apparently doesn't like it, but I think it's where he fits the most if Schwarber is going to be cleanup, because Schwarber really only works first or fourth, in my opinion, or later, and he's not going to be later than fourth. Him in 2 or 3 just doesn't make sense to me unless Harper's leading off for some reason, which I don't see. So I think, this is the lineup that works. I think 5 will be interchangeable between Realmuto and Castellanos. I would assume it's just Castellanos, because then on days Realmuto doesn't play, it doesn't cause as much shifting in the lineup. So I would assume it's Castellanos. But I was interested that Kepler was 6th. So they seem, because a lot of people, like at the beginning of the offseason, or I guess the beginning of spring training, the end of the offseason, had him like 8 or 9. But I think just the way he's more of a power guy than Stott and Marsh, I like him 6. So I think he'll be 6. And then whatever the hell the combination is with Stott, Sosa, Marsh, Rojas, whatever goes on there is kind of rounding out the bottom. But I think this is the way to at least start the season. I know they experimented, what was it, 2 years ago with Turner in leadoff spot, and they only gave it 2 weeks. I think they have to give this at least a month. And you're going to play some good teams early, including the Dodgers, so you're going to get tested. But I like the lineup as of right now. This is the way I would go about it. But, it is what it is. Like, there's no one new emerging in this lineup. Like, it's just kind of playing around with what's there to see what works the best.
Yeah, for sure. And if you kind of look at what some of the everyday numbers look like, Schwarber and Turner don't have the best numbers, but Harper's average is high. You'd probably like a little bit more slug, probably a lot of it more slug. I don't know if he has any home runs yet, but
I don't think he does. No,
a lot of
doubles. He
might
be working on stuff though.
He's hitting a lot of balls hard, a lot of line drives to the backside, which is good. So I mean, I'm not worried about Harper at all. Bohm is hitting the crap out of the ball. He's OPS is 1.15, but
are we doing this again? Are we doing this again?
Every April and May. So I literally sound like, wake me up in June and we'll see where his numbers are at, because he did the same thing last year. He started the All-Star game and then fell off a cliff. But the home runs to center field last week were definitely encouraging. But then there's also times where he gets belt high fastballs with negative 55-degree launch angles. So I don't know at this point if I don't know if it's ever going to come, the power. I think he's kind of just how he is as a hitter, and we kind of have to accept that. And I think if he's hitting in the 3 spot, how he is as a hitter is perfectly fine. If you're surrounding him with Schwarber and Harper, I don't need 30 home runs from Bohm in the 3 hole.
Right.
I need him on base. I need, if Harper hits a double, I need him to be able to bring him in with a single or right field or a double in the gap, and then let Schwarber do the home runs with RBIs or guys on base. So I think how you were saying that this is how the lineup has to be, with the way that they have the mix of righties and lefties and kind of speed and the archetypes that they have. The first 5, 6 are set in stone. I guess you can interchange. In my mind, you can interchange the JT Kepler 6 and 7 spot however you want. I'd probably go Kepler and then JT, just because you're going to have Stott and Marsh or Rojas at the bottom. So you probably don't want to go Kepler, Stott, Marsh when there's a lefty. So and I mean, Kepler doesn't really swing at too many bad pitches. So like I I think it's like an interesting mixture of a lineup. I like the addition of Kepler as opposed to where they've kind of gone in the
I
past.
just wish he was righty, but
Yeah, for
there's
sure.
so many freaking lefties in this lineup.
I know, but I don't know. I'm excited about the offense. I'm sure that'll bite me in the ass come mid-May. But I think right now the lineup and the different kind of styles that they have up and down it should be a relatively complete lineup. We know the inconsistencies that all these guys have. We've seen the core for 3 or 4 years now, but like on paper, they are, a really good lineup that can kind of bring every tool to the table.
Yeah, and that's the nice part is there's a lot of interchangeable parts. You have Turner and Schwarber who could obviously lead off if Stott strains out and gets back to what he was in 23. Like he could be another candidate. So then you have three guys that could lead off. The 2-hole could be Harper, Bohm, Stott, Turner. Like there's a lot of different guys that could go up there. Cassie's bat anywhere from 3 to 8. I think the same with Real Muto. Real Muto's actually batted somewhere between 2 to 8, I think, since he's been here with the Phillies. Yeah. So there's a lot of interchangeable parts. Bryce has obviously done 3-4 for the majority of it, but now trying 2. So it is nice that there's a lot of interchangeable parts and a lot of guys that could run too. Casty, Bohm, and Schwarber are not included in that. Pretty much everyone else like has some speed to them. So you get a little versatility with that too, which is nice. So yeah, a lot of interchangeable parts there. Obviously, like the rotation, there's no concern right now. The lineup, it's in a wait and see type mode, but it really does come down, I think, to what you get out of this bullpen right now. Because I mean, we were pretty excited about the bullpen going in the season last year because it was Sir Anthony, Soto, who finished 23 kind of strong. Hoffman, who obviously came on, and then along with Alvarado, Strom, and Kirkering. So you had like 6 guys that you really trusted. And with Strom down right now, we're on 2, 3.
2.5. I'll count Romano because like I think last year you could kind of chalk up to injuries, and when he's been healthy, he's been very good. But I'd say 2.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean that's just where I'm like the concern comes from.
Honestly, maybe 2 because normally it would be Strom. I trust Kirkring for the most part. Then it's like Alvarado is honestly a half for me right now, and Romano's a half. So yeah, I'm kind of at 2 that I trust out of 4 people.
Yeah. At least with the way this rotation, and see, the one benefit would be if they did go to a 6-man rotation, the guys could go a little deeper.
Yeah.
And it's a little less stress on the bullpen. So that might be the trade-off we see. So that's something I think to keep an eye on for.
Yeah, for sure. That saves some innings, especially when Painter gets up, go 6-man, so he's not throwing every 5th day, and you could use him in the playoffs here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, so, all right, we'll be back in, I guess, like 10 days to do the season prediction. Hopefully the Phillies stay healthy. Some of these other teams have been in rough shape. The Yankees lost Garrett Cole for the year already,
and maybe Stanton.
Yeah, which is rough. The Red Sox at plus 270. I really like them to win that division, actually.
Imagine with the Yankees losing Cole and Stanton, Walker and Castellanos just slide in there.
If they want to give us
Jones.
Yeah, and Jason Dominguez, who gets talked about for the 45th straight offseason.
As a top prospect.
Yeah, and
I think he was a top prospect when I was a freshman in high school, I think.
Another thing is like he burst on the scene when he was 16, which is part of it. So he just feels a lot older than he is. But it's like, dude, we've been doing this every year now. And the Mets are dealing with a lot of pitching issues. And Alvarez, who a lot of Mets fans like point to him as kind of the heartbeat of their team.
They had a losing record without him last year.
Yeah, their record without him last year was atrocious. So they don't have him for like, I think it's at 6 to 8 weeks. So there's already a lot going on. So Matt Strom missing maybe 2 weeks, if that's the worst it is, you're pretty happy with that. Obviously, still got to get through a couple more weeks. I think each starter is going to get one more start in there, kind of as build up. Sanchez looked really good. I can't believe so. To finish on this, over the course of just 3 weeks of spring training, his Cy Young odds have gone in half, from plus 5,000 to plus 2,500.
All over.
I mean, it's just from 3 weeks of spring training that happened. Like nothing actually in the season. That's insane. I've never seen anything like that. But yeah, I mean, still, like, this team still has the third, fourth best odds to win the World Series.
Yep.
A lot of it is on the rotation, but man, we'll see. I didn't really get into, because I don't want to make this too much of a trade deadline preview show, but I kind of mentioned them. Like, there could be some names available at the deadline too, like Vladdy, Tucker. Could Mike Trout finally ask out this year? There's a few guys that. There's another first baseman too that's on like a rental deal. I was thinking about.
I mean, Nathaniel Lowe's in DC.
Oh yeah. There's one more, like a bigger name though. I was thinking of. I can't think of it now. I can't believe this. I can't think of it. But point is, Harper said he moved back to the outfield for the right guy. So
Reese,
Vladdy. You know what? Honestly, I think Reese might have been one of the names I was thinking of because he's a rental.
Well, the Harper article that I saw was initially Pete.
Yeah, I did see that. That's interesting. I would have went after like Christian Walker if I knew this was going to be a thing, but whatever. It doesn't matter. All right. We'll be back in 10 days to preview the season. So we will talk then.